So the other thing that's interesting is I'm not a huge fan of cards if they serve no purpose. So the rules will have all the data in the rule book in tables at the back. But you will find for this the cards actually do serve a big purpose. They're very, very handy because everything is customized to the rules. So what we're going to do is we're going to produce A6 cards, and these A6 cards have all the data that you need for a vehicle. That's a Panzer IV-H we've got there. It tells you the colour you start with at different ranges. So you can see red at the top, up to a relatively short distance. All the distances are in centimetres and inches, so you can play in either system. It's entirely your choice. I think most people prefer inches, but probably 25% prefer centimetres and millimetres. So we've got both covered on the one card. So you can see we've got a red, that's up to 16 inches. It's got a yellow up to about 28, green, like blah blah, and it's all there. All the armour data is on there, all the weapon data, all the penetration data, it's all in one place, and it's on that single easy to read card because it's a decent size. And to keep it tidy, we've found these. These are real military stock. These are actually British military order holders. So this is what a military person has with his maps and rules of engagement and other such things slotted in one of his pockets when he's fighting for the British military. So we're going to get some of these made, and these are going to have the World in Conflict logo on the front, and then they're rather fabulous because you typically need 4 to 6 cards a game of vehicles, no more, because you won't have massive variety, it's not realistic. So all of those go at the front of your actual wallet, and there's loads of other ones at the back, so you can store all the cards you're not using on the day in the same wallet. Very neat because it can just sit there next to you, and when you need it, even if it's on the table, it's nice and neat, and when you need to refer to it, you just open it up and go, right, Panzer IV, hang on, I start in the green. Job done. So that should be very, very neat on the tabletop. The morale also works with these dice. The rules basically use the fancy dice and D10 for pretty much everything. It's fast moving. Games are designed to play in 2.5 hours. The rule set actually is aiming at a very high degree of realism. So there are 2 rule sets effectively in one. There's what we call the competition rules. So those are the ones I've adjusted to get down to 2.5 hour games where we get reasonably decisive results. And then there's what we call the simulation rules, which is the full set, which have the maximum feel. And there's some pretty interesting mechanics there if you're playing refights, reenactments, casual games where you want the maximum realism for a World War II game. Of course, the more you put that in, the longer it takes, hence the competition set. But you should find competition games about 2.5 hours. A typical force in this is going to be 2 or 3 companies, so it's sort of battalion level. If you take a bunch of cheap stuff, you'll probably even be able to afford an entire battalion. In terms of movement and such things, if I can just find a sheet, the activation system is quite simple as well. The activation system is working also off a colour system. In your set you will get a bag, and to put in that bag you'll get a bunch of discs. The discs are actually going to be printed on the rear to blend in with our own battle mats, so they'll actually have this pattern on the back, so when they're on the table they'll largely disappear. On the other side, yet again the colours. Red best, black the worst. And all you do is you activate units. Units being platoons, sections, troops. I mean, they're all different names in different nations, but you're basically going to activate, say, this platoon of infantry. And a black disc will do very little. It'll allow you to move non-tactically, which means you're very vulnerable. A red disc will let you do all sorts of fancy things. To give you examples, a white would let those fire, a green would let them move and fire, a yellow would let them opportunity fire at enemy. And the game is very interactive because what happens is you do some things and then you pass the initiative back to your opponents. There is no such thing as your turn. It's our turn. Somebody has the initiative, does some things, passes the initiative to the enemy, they do some things, pass the initiative back, and indeed you can interrupt the other person's actions with opportunity fire and certain reaction moves. Return fire and opportunity fire being the 2 most common. So it becomes a very engaging, fast-flowing, interactive game between the 2 players. In terms of army characteristics, most of them come out through the system, because the way we do it is the command and control has a certain number of discs for HQs. So if you have high-quality Germans like these, their BHQs and CHQs will have quite a lot of discs, and actually because they're highly trained, they get to do a lot with the disc. If you compare those to some early war Russians who are very brave but not terribly well trained and not terribly well led, their HQs will have relatively few discs, and actually they'll need more expensive discs to do certain things. So you will find that German army used well will be very good at combined arms, very good at coordinating things, very good at being aggressive in certain areas, and can be clever if you're good enough to do it. The Russian army, by contrast, you will need to rely on courage and masses of troops and a lot of non-tactical moves to get a lot of forces forward quickly. So we don't need special characteristics to do those sorts of things. The actual core system covers 80% of the characteristics, and then we just lock on a few extras at the end to give particular feel to particular troops who have particular skills. That's called the characteristic sheet. And that basically is the whole game. The core set that comes out will have the data in it for the entire World War II period for all the main nations. It'll have a set of cards for late war for the main protagonists. So you'll have the Russians, the Americans, the British and the Germans. Assuming you all like the cards as much as Mark and I do and the testers do, we'll then go on and produce card packs for the nations for different things, such as probably the Desert War will be the very next one. But the minute the rules come out, you can play anything you like, from Poland all the way through to the final stages of the war against Japan. I hope that's given you a quick introduction. When the rules are out, there will be a series of videos for all the individual mechanics. I'll take you through the whole lot personally. And there'll be a couple of complete battles played from start to finish, and we will get those up on the video system fairly soon after. Indeed, in the rules, there's a battalion level refight of the battle at Rauray on the 1st of July 1944, which is the first Tyneside Scottish, dug in defensive positions, almost getting completely overrun by 2nd SS Das Reich and 9th SS Hausenstaffen. So there's a fantastic ready-made big battalion game in the rules. That, however, takes a whole day, not 2.5 hours. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it gives you a bit of a sense of what's coming. The rules should be out for pre-orders very early in the new year, and we should have them, I think, available and out sometime around March and April. Have fun. Hope you like the idea. Log on to Facebook and join the Facebook group. I'll log on to the forum, which is new, and join the forum. Look forward to speaking to you there. Look forward to seeing you. Look forward to getting some troops on the table. Have fun.